Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome indeed to today's iOB business webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. I very much hope that you enjoy the content that we have for you today as much as I always love presenting it. So my name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business, okay? And I will be the one taking you through today's webinar. Now, if this is your first time joining us, a very warm welcome, and we'll run through a little bit about how these webinars work so that you're familiar with it before we get kicked off for today's session. And if you have joined us before, a very warm welcome back. It's a pleasure to see you here again. Okay, so the way that these webinars run, we do a brief introduction with myself. Once again, my name is Ben, right before we wait for the 2 o'clock mark and we jump into the webinar. Now, the webinar itself today, it's going to run for around about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, we're going to go through a presentation. We're going to go through 3 core topics. Now, in between each of these 3 core topics, you've got more than enough time to jot down any notes that you may wish to take and indeed fire away with any questions that you might have that I will get for you at the end of today's session during the Q&A segment. Okay, so in between each of the 3 topics, I am going to take a brief pause and I will give you a chance to ask away with any questions that you have, and I'll get them for you during the Q&A session. Now, the reason that we take this pause is to give everybody enough time to take a few notes and jot themselves anything that they wish to write down throughout today's session to make sure that you get the most value from the session as much as we love to give value through today's session. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch off the video camera now. You shouldn't be able to hear, you shouldn't be able to see my face anymore, but you should still be able to hear my voice, and you should be able to see the presentation now up on screen for you there as well. Okay, so today's topic of conversation, a truly amazing one that I, as a business coach, truly love to speak about: how to start a business. Okay, so today's presenter is myself. My name is Ben, and I am a business coach that specializes in working with small businesses to help them achieve stability and growth. Okay, it's my forte, it's my niche, it's my passion. It's a genuine pleasure to get to do this every single day. Okay, and this is what I'm so excited about, to be on today's webinar with you talking about all of this stuff today. Okay, so today's discussion points: number 1, highlight your obstacles. Number 2, build your path. And number 3, keep it consistent. Okay, consistency is huge when it comes to running a startup business. Okay, so we're going to talk about each of these 3 topics in good detail, beginning with topic number 1 for today's session: highlight your obstacles. Now, right before we get kicked off with the session, if you could please do me a big favor, just let me know if you can hear my voice coming through okay, and if you can indeed see the presentation up on screen okay as well. And then I will be happy that we have that confirmation to get kicked off on today's session. Okay. Fantastic. Loud and clear. Thumbs up. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you ever so much for taking the time to confirm that. I'm now happy to go ahead and get started with today's session. Okay. So highlighting your obstacles. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what it means. Okay. Now, we're talking specifically today about starting a new business, a brand new business, from idea, from concept, from creation. How do we make this work? Okay, how do we make this business idea work? Now, there are so many concerns that new business owners have, and that list sort of depends on the person, on the way they want to run the business, on the questions that they have. Okay, and I love answering these questions, so please do feel free to fire away any questions you have relating to new business, the webinar, marketing, how to manage and run a startup, anything you like. Okay, and I'd be more than happy to get it for you at the end of today's session. Now, let's talk about the specifics. Many new business owners are currently working another job. Okay, now this is one of the biggest obstacles that I hear, and we're talking specifically right now in topic number 1 about highlighting your obstacles and understanding them so that you can then overcome them. Now, many new business owners are currently working another job. Why do I say this? Well, I'll tell you. The reason I want to speak to you about these obstacles today, and this obstacle in particular, is because it is one that I hear so often. As a business coach, I am more than aware that many people work other jobs. Okay, they're working a full-time job, they're working a part-time job, they're working night shift, they're doing something that takes up most of their daytime. Okay, their time during the day. Now, we don't include things like, obviously, super late in the evening or overnight or anything like that, unless of course you're on night shift. Okay, but one of the biggest concerns that you may have personally is, well, Ben, I'm so busy. I'm doing something else all the time. If I'm not working another job, I'm at home, I'm taking care of my family, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going out at the weekends, whatever. Okay. These business owners, many people who launch these startups, are in exactly the same boat. And whether it's comforting to hear, reassuring to hear, or whether it simply puts a stop to that obstacle for you, is completely up to you. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because it is so abundantly relevant that we talk about this. if you are working another job, full-time, part-time, or otherwise, I completely understand on a first-hand basis how difficult it can be to manage and run a startup alongside this. But what you must know is that it is an obstacle, but not one that is insurmountable. Okay. We have to figure out how to work around these obstacles. Okay. Now, most of the time, with working another job, the main obstacle that comes in is time management. Where am I going to get time to do this? Where am I going to get time to do that? Okay. Now, let's say even 10, 20, 30 minutes a day. Okay. 30 minutes a day, that's 2.5 hours per week. If you want to compound a 4-week month, that's 10 hours per month. Okay. Now, there's 12 months in a year. If you're doing 10 hours per month on your business, that's 120 hours in a year. In other words, 3 full working weeks. Okay. If the average working week is 40 hours, that's 3 full weeks from working just half an hour a day in a year that you could accomplish. Okay. Now, there's nothing to say that you have to get this business up and running overnight. There's nothing to say that you only have a week to make it work, or you only have a month to make it work, or even you only have a year to make it work. But what I will tell you is 3 consistent weeks, okay, from half an hour a day, you can get an awful lot done. So that's the first obstacle I wanted to help you begin overcoming. Now, the next thing, many new business owners have other time commitments, such as family and essential obligations. Every single person I know on a personal level has obligations and commitments like this. They have kids to take care of. They have a partner that they want to make sure gets enough time with them. They like to do things at the weekends. They like to relax with their family. They've got various different obligations and commitments. And, obligation, maybe even a bit of a strong word. If it's something that you want to do, you don't feel obligated to go and have a lovely family day out. You want to do it. And so you should. That's what life is for. Life is for living. And something that I talk about so much as being an independent business owner is that you then have the freedom, the flexibility to do more of this, which is why it's so important that I emphasize the freedom and control over yourself and your own life you will have if you decide to launch your own business. Okay, now many new business owners have other time commitments. Okay, not only their job, they have lots of other things that they're looking at doing. You are not alone in this boat. Okay, but I refer back to, can you extract a half an hour a day? Look at your day specifically from start to finish. What time do you get up? Okay, do you get up at 8? Okay, fine. Get up at 7:30. That gives you an extra half an hour in the day. Do you settle down to watch TV for 2 hours before bedtime? Okay, before you go to bed at say 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Could you watch an hour and a half of TV and put half an hour of that time that was previously 2 hours worth of TV towards working on your business? Could you do a little bit of work on your lunch break? Could you do a little bit of work on your commute home? Could you answer emails? Could you take phone calls? Could you do meetings? Okay, could you do any of these things in any time that you have throughout the day? Because I can almost guarantee that at some point during your day, you will find yourself doing something non-productive. Okay, now I'm not asking you to completely replace that with full productivity. All that I'm merely suggesting that you consider doing is removing some of that non-productivity state and replacing it with even a half an hour worth of productive activity. Okay. But the main reason I share this point with you, that many other new business owners have other time commitments, is so that you do not feel alone, so that you don't feel like you're the only one who can't start a business or struggles to start a business or is hesitant on running a startup because of these other time commitments and other things that you have to do. Okay. Now, finances. Let's talk about this one. This is often the biggest elephant in the room when we're talking about, why you may not be looking to start a new business. Okay. Now, finances, they can certainly be a mental roadblock for prospective business owners. Now, the reason I say mental here is because I want to sort of alleviate the myth or the illusion that every single startup in the world has to cost a total fortune to run. Okay, I would say that if I asked you, generally speaking, you don't have potentially much business experience. I'm deliberately laying out this example whilst it might not necessarily be true for the people on here. But let's just assume that you don't know an awful lot about startups, you don't know an awful lot about business. Okay, potentially the illusion that's been given to you online or on social media or even on bits of research is that a startup will cost you 50 grand, 100 grand. It requires consistent investment. You have to hire straight off the bat. Okay, all of these things not necessarily true. Okay, now, yeah, don't get me wrong. If you want to launch an expensive prototype-based startup, which is going to cost you thousands of pounds to develop prototypes and factory connections and manufacturing links and all these kinds of things, yeah, okay, fair enough. It's going to cost you a little bit of cash, okay, or more than a little. However, there are businesses that you can run and manage. You can manage your finances effectively. Okay, you don't have to hire somebody from the off. That's a huge saving. If, especially in-house, that could be 10, 20, 30 grand a year saving right off the bat. You don't have to do that. Okay, advertising and marketing. Again, with the perception that this costs 500, 1,000 pounds, 5,000 pounds a month to run and manage, you can do organic marketing. In other words, marketing or advertising that costs you next to, if not completely, nothing. No money whatsoever. How much does it cost you to walk into a local business and say, hello, my name is X and I do X. Would you like to do business with me? Okay, cost you absolutely nothing other than your time. Okay, so there are many, many ways in which you can cut back and save money on launching a startup by taking alternative routes. Now, okay, in full transparency, does organic marketing typically take a little bit longer to be effective than paid marketing? Yes. Okay. In my experience, that's a truthful answer. It will cost you significantly less money, if any money at all, to run organic marketing, but it will likely take you longer to find clients, and it might be a little bit more complex and difficult. And often you might have to do something a little bit more, typically awkward, like make a cold call or go into a business. Okay. Now, with paid marketing, obviously, you have the benefit of running adverts. You have the benefit of getting people to book calls with you. Okay. Now, these are the ways that having a little bit of money can definitely aid you in running a startup, but it's not always essential. Okay. Now, whatever the startup cost is in the hundreds of thousands, there are ways of managing your finances to assess what is affordable for you. And key rule here, you should only ever do what is affordable for you. Okay. But from first-hand experience, it is absolutely possible to run a startup business with very, very, very little funds, especially online. Okay. Now, self-doubt. This is the biggest one that I want to talk to you about because it is an absolute killer for new businesses. Okay. It's an absolute killer in the world of new business. Self-doubt, if not nothing else, is the single thing that will take you down. If you doubt your own ability, you doubt your own passion, you doubt your own drive, you doubt your own determination, you doubt your own intelligence. Okay. All of these things can cripple your ability to run a business because you are sitting there saying you are not capable. You're looking in the mirror and you're saying to that person that you see in the mirror, I am not capable. You are not capable. We cannot do this. Okay. It's a killer. It's something you need to get rid of. Okay. Self doubt is, if nothing else, as I said, the single thing that will bring you down, even if you've got the finances in place, even if you've got the support network in place, even if you've got the resources, the education in place. If you doubt yourself, you will pull yourself down, undoubtedly. So do not doubt yourself. Give yourself credit, give yourself encouragement. Take time to figure out what you want to do and how you're going to achieve it. Eliminate self-doubt. Okay, so that brings us to the end of topic number one. Questions are always welcome. Fire them in. I'm going to give you a brief moment now. Please do take your time to ask away any questions and indeed jot down any notes that you may wish to take. And I'll see you again in just a moment's time for topic number two. All right, wonderful. So hopefully you've had a chance now to do that. Thank you for the question. I'll get that for you at the end. Okay, now we're going to talk about building your path in business. Okay, starting a new business, launching a new business. That's the topic of today's conversation. Now, first up, assess your daily, weekly, and monthly time restraints. Okay, I want to help you build a path here to assess how effectively you can run a startup business. Okay, so the first path that we're going to begin building is assessing your regular time restraints on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Okay, so you can do this. Which job do you have? How much time does it take? How often are you there? When do you need to be at the office? When do you not need to be at the office? How many phone calls do you take? How many meetings do you make? Are these necessary? Okay. Think about all of these things. What else do you do? Do you have family commitments? Do you have home commitments? Do you have commitments outside those things? Do you have hobbies that you like to commit to on a regular basis? Do you have communities that you're a part of where your commitments lay? Okay. Do you volunteer? Do you offer help? What are your restraints time wise, and how do they affect the way that you could potentially run a startup business? Again, assessing these will give you the ability to look at them in a list or on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet, however you want to do it. And it will allow you, by visualizing what you can actually see in front of you, you'll be able to say, actually, I could probably reduce that from 3 hours a week to an hour a week. Or I do spend a lot of time watching TV. I could probably stop doing that as much, and I could probably put a little bit of that time towards a business. Now, listen, I, as much as anyone else, love relaxing at the end of a hard day. Okay, you deserve it. You earned it. It's absolutely something that makes you happy, and it's absolutely something that you should do. You might hear many other business coaches saying, don't watch TV and don't look at social media and don't do this and don't do that. I personally will encourage you. I will encourage you to do things that make you feel happy. I will encourage you to do things that make you feel your best self as a person, help you relax, help you unwind, because it is incredibly important. I encourage taking trips away. I encourage taking breaks for your mental health, for your mental ability, for your relaxation. Okay. All of these wonderful things that you earn and then you can go and enjoy. Okay. But you should assess, please, your daily obligations, things that are very, very difficult to change. Okay. Your daily, weekly, and monthly time restraints. Now, by doing this, visualizing it, it'll help you understand what you do and don't need to do. Secondly, master the art of effective time management. Okay, now probably the biggest thing when it comes down to this art of time management, and for the purposes of today's webinar, we'll touch on it, but we won't go super in depth. We do have other webinars talking about time management. Okay, but mastering the art of effective time management primarily means understanding where you are spending time and if it is absolutely essential and necessary. Now, these are the fundamentals of time management. Is it taking you 3 hours to do a task that could be done in one? Okay. Is that because of systems, resources, whatever? Doesn't matter. There's probably a reason that you're spending significantly more time doing something than you should. Now, the likelihood is you also know what this reason is, you just haven't done anything about it yet. For example, okay, the most common example I love to use for this is managing and booking meetings and appointments. Okay, first of all, is the meeting or appointment necessary? Okay, because part of the time it isn't. It could be said in a report or an email. Secondly, when we're looking at these types of things, are we actually booking this effectively? How much time does it take you to send an email back and forth? When are you free? Oh, I could do this time. Oh, actually, that time doesn't work for me. Could we look at this time or next week or the week after that? Or could we do this? Could we do that? How much time do we need? Do we have an agenda? Okay. All a total waste of time. Okay. There is a way that you can have your calendar availability put online. Okay. And somebody who wants to book a meeting with you can go onto that link, see when you're available and book it. And they can even put a meeting agenda in there or whatever. Okay. Master the art of effective time management. Stop wasting time on doing things that could be done in a fraction of the time. Okay. Emails back and forth when booking meetings, unnecessary, completely unnecessary. Okay. You can have a calendar booking link. We'll take care of that. Now, that's just one example of multiple other things that we possibly do, myself included, on a daily basis that could be done much more quickly and much more effectively. Okay. Next thing you need to do when you're building your path to starting a business is understand the concept of cash flow, basic expense management, basic profit analysis, basic fundamentals of understanding how much cash you're taking in and how much cash is going out. Okay, one thing that will massively help you is understanding what resources you have in the bank, how effectively you can use those resources, what is yours available for spending, and what needs to go out on certain expenses. Now, we assess expenses again. Are they necessary? Do we need them? Is that unnecessary? Okay, for example, sending out £500 a month for a billboard that isn't actually bringing us any custom or is really impossible to measure how much custom that's actually bringing in, stop it. Okay, go and spend that £500 or even half of that on an effective advertising campaign that you can actually read and analyze the results on. Okay, this is just one example of managing and understanding the concept of cash flow, but the very basic fundamental understandings of cash flow come from understanding how much is coming in, where that money is coming from, and where that money needs to be spent, how it needs to be organized, and what it's paying for. Okay, those are the basic fundamentals of cash flow: revenue / turnover, profits, and expenses. Okay, now write down your mental blocks. This is the biggest thing that I want you to do, because many of examples that we've used today, many of the items that we've discussed can be learned, can be developed. Cash flow analysis is a skill. Time management is a skill. Assessing time restraints, it's a skill. Spreadsheets, online abilities, they're all skills. Okay, they're all things that can be developed. But what I want you to do is write down your mental blocks. What's stopping you? Do you feel incapable? Do you feel powerless? Do you feel like you don't have enough time? Do you feel like you're too busy? Do you feel like it's just impossible for one reason or another? There are quite literally hundreds of potential mental blocks that you have out there for hundreds of different reasons, probably more. Okay. Now, what we're looking at here is writing down your personal mental blocks. What is in your head as to why you cannot start a business? What is getting in your way? I want to know why you feel as if you cannot do something. Okay, because there will be a reason. Anytime you feel incapable, there is always a reason, and it's important for you personally to assess what that reason is if you ever wish to overcome it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of topic number 2. I'm going to give you a brief moment. Do fire away with any questions, and do take a moment to jot down any notes that you might have, and I'll rejoin you again in just a moment's time for topic number 3. Wonderful. So let's move on to topic number 3, keeping it consistent. Okay, something that we need to talk about now. Okay, keeping it consistent. Now, let's talk about all of the points that we have up on screen here. Okay, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week adds up to 120 hours in a year. That's slightly incorrect there, 130. Okay, it's evidently a typo. Okay, but what we're looking at is 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's 2.5 hours. Okay, now in a month, it adds up to, let's say, 120 hours, or potentially it's not a typo. If it's, the maths have been done on it, it could even be 130 hours in a year. Okay, if you take in the extra time, there's extra weeks in a month, etc. So probably the maths overall calculates to about 130 hours in a year, regardless of whether it's 120, whether it's 130, it doesn't matter. Okay, the point is, it's a hugely significant amount of time that adds up in a year. Okay, the maths there is, regardless of what we're looking at, whatever we're looking at specifics wise, it is an enormous amount of time that you can spend working on your business. And how much significance, how much could change if you're looking at 130 hours in a calendar year? How much could you get done in this amount of time? And if you think about it, it is an absolutely astronomical amount of time. If I said to you, can you spend 130 hours on this task for me, please? How much could you get done? How much of the business could you set up? How much studying could you get done? How much education could you do? How many resources could you sift through? Okay, 130 hours. It's an enormous amount of time. Okay, next thing you can do, work with those around you to sculpt a vision together. Rely on your community, rely on your network, rely on your contacts. Okay, work with those around you to sculpt a vision together. Okay, somebody that you've been thinking about going into business with, somebody that you reckon could help you really visualize, somebody that you go for a coffee with and you leave feeling empowered. You feel like that was an amazing conversation. That's somebody I love spending time with, because they encourage you, they help you grow, they help you develop, and they get you excited for what's in your future. Okay, these types of people are wonderful and you should value them. Okay, monitor your funds and invest in necessary essentials only. This is a huge component of startup businesses. Okay, so we're talking about necessary essentials. Now, something that does not fall into that category is getting a super duper fancy logo designed for X amount of pounds, or whatever your local currency is, and then putting that on jumpers and t-shirts and pens and all that kind of stuff. It's not essential. When we're monitoring your funds, you've got to invest in necessary essentials only. Okay, these are the types of things that we're speaking about earlier during the cash flow management phase. We're talking about spending on things that are only essential for your business. Even at hiring in-house for £30,000 a year, you don't have to do that immediately. It's very unlikely to be actually absolutely necessary for something that you're beginning with. Okay, and finally, understand that your mental blocks are indeed only mental. There's a very strong likelihood that they are something that you can overcome, something that you can empower yourself to deal with. Okay, but you cannot overcome these mental blocks if you've not assessed what they are or why they are occurring. So please, as we said in topic number 2, refer back to that, write down what your mental blocks are, because this is the first step in understanding and analyzing how you can actually overcome them. Okay, so this takes us to the end of topic number 3. Once again, I'm going to give you a brief moment to jot down any notes and indeed fire away with any questions that you might have, and I'll see you again in just a moment's time for the recap and then the Q&A on today's session. Wonderful. So to recap on today's session, okay, number 1, highlight and overcome your obstacles. Okay, think about what these obstacles are, put them on a piece of paper, and begin to overcome them. You cannot overcome if you have not highlighted. Number 2, build your path and assess your constraints. Okay, figure out what it is that you have to do to build the path towards starting a valuable startup for yourself, for your business, for your future career, and assess the constraints that you have around this and reasons why you believe you may not be able to do it, and what restraints you have, what constraints you have, and then assess these, put them together, and begin to figure out how you can work around them or work with them. And finally, achieve consistently. Okay, now consistency, as we spoke about right at the beginning of today's webinar, is one of the biggest things that you can do. Okay, consistency is everything. You have to dedicate that 30 minutes a day, even if that helps you develop over time. Okay, but it has to be done. It has to be consistent, because if that 30 minutes a day isn't consistent, because it seems somewhat insignificant. Okay, it's only 30 minutes a day, it's fine, I'll skip today, I'll skip next week, I'll skip tomorrow. That then does not compound into the 130 hours in a year. Or it's my previous maths with 4-week months, 120 hours a year. Okay, either way, it's a huge number. So you have to achieve consistently and on a very regular basis. Okay, that is the biggest piece of advice I can give you from the back of today's webinar. Okay, so as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend today's webinar session. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to discuss this with you. If you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us. And you can go on there and book a call, at a time that suits you. So I'm going to leave this calendar example up on the screen for you today whilst I go and grab the questions that I have from today's session. Okay. Now, what we're looking at is two questions that I have from you lovely people today. Okay, so the first question I have, my blocks feel so real. How do I stop that feeling? Okay, these mental blocks, I completely understand. They can feel very overwhelming. They can feel very, very impactful. Okay, something that I would suggest you begin doing to start overcoming these mental blocks is taking consistent action. Okay, retrain your own mind to believe in yourself, believe in your actions, believe in what you do. If you are achieving consistently, even with small tasks, day on day on day. Okay, you're waking up when you said you were going to wake up. You're having your morning routine as you said you were going to have your morning routine. You are making a commitment, you are sticking to it, and you are smashing it. Over time, you will begin to believe within yourself once again that you are capable and you can do this. Okay, it's a funny example, but if you tell yourself you're going to wake up at 7 a.m. and you end up waking up at 8:30, you've then told yourself, well, I can't do it. I made a commitment, I didn't stick to it, therefore I am incapable, even if that's just a subconscious thought or feeling. Something that you have to gain control of. So start making commitments and start sticking to them, and you'll probably find, okay, in my estimation, in my experience, that pretty quickly you'll begin to regain that full control where you can become to overcome mental blocks. Okay. Next question. I literally don't have any spare time. Awesome. I love hearing that because I hear it all the time. Okay, so once again, I refer back to something I spoke about earlier in the webinar. Do you watch TV? Do you have hobbies? Okay, the choice is yours what you spend your time doing. And like I said, I'm not, sort of advocating never watching TV, never relaxing, never doing any personal hobbies. All I'm asking you here is what's more important? If you watch 2-3 hours of TV at nighttime, could you take even half an hour of that time out? Okay, could you keep yourself up just half an hour later at nighttime? Could you wake up just half an hour earlier in the morning? Okay, look for places within your day, within the way that you spend time, that you can actually take a moment to do this. Okay, now I understand on first-hand basis how difficult it can be, especially when you're managing more than one thing. Maybe you're managing multiple projects, multiple tasks, multiple commitments in your life. Finding time can feel near impossible, but the key word there is feel. Okay, it doesn't mean it necessarily is, but an awesome question. Thank you for allowing me the chance to cover that again. Okay, do we have any more questions from today's session? No. Okay, looks like that's it for today. So as always, a huge thank you for taking the time to attend. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you on today's iOB Business webinar, and I very much look forward to speaking with you again on the next session. Take care and bye for now.